It is great to see all of you here. Thank you so much on this nasty rainy day for joining us. We're delighted to have you. This is another in our Insight Dialogue series. The series was really an experiment when we started. It was, could we take a kind of small room and 2 armchairs and an internet and really experiment with the idea that we could get people talking about pressing issues and see if the conversation goes global. And that's exactly what we've been finding. It's really been amazing. And we know and hope that in the future, whether it's tomorrow or 10 years from now, the conversations that we've seen launched here and your responses through social media, those of you who are in the room with us today, in joining that conversation and really engaging in this dialogue have been an important part of it. They've been vibrant, and I think we will really see big impact going forward into the future. And that's why I'm so thrilled to have the extraordinary Jada Pinkett Smith with us today. She is a true force of nature. When you think about her career, actor, producer, director, dancer, singer, philanthropist, and real humanitarian. It is totally amazing. I am only thankful, though, that she is not here in her role as Fish Mooney on Gotham, where she plays a true villain and gang boss. Though I would say it's a testament to her amazing acting skills that she can slip into that role when so much of her real life has been advocating for and being a force for good. And it runs in the family. If you look at the water bottles that are on your chair, this is a plant-based water bottle of Just Water. Jada's son, Jaden, is a leader in the company, and it was founded on the very simple idea that if we use the Earth's limited resources more wisely and more sustainably, we can have a lasting impact on our environment and on our communities. And it's a brilliant and wonderful idea. Jada was also inspired by her daughter Willow when Willow was 11, who really called to her attention the issue of human trafficking. And Jada has been an outspoken advocate for ending human trafficking and really has called attention to something that maybe most people don't know about, which is the extent of this epidemic right here in the United States. If you haven't seen the special report on trafficking that Jada did on CNN last year, I urge you to watch it. And I was struck by something that Jada said about human trafficking, because it speaks volumes about how she sees her role more generally. She said, she's doing it because we all have a role to play in this. And I agree. All of us have to think broadly and creatively in our roles, whether it's taking voice against human trafficking, whether it's thinking about equity and inclusion more generally, or whatever the issue is that you feel most passionate about. We all have a role in being that force for change. I also want to highlight a newer initiative. Jada's Family Foundation is shining a bright light on the lack of diversity and the lack of inclusion in the entertainment industry in particular, where women and minorities are unbelievably underrepresented, both behind the camera, in writers, in studio heads, producers. And right now, we think that that kind of effort is so critical because we need to think about youth employment, particularly as we at Rockefeller think about it, what we call impact hiring, where we really try to make a very specific impact by making sure that there's greater access and retention of disadvantaged youth across the spectrum, not only in the entertainment industry, but in all of the industries that move our economy forward, because that is truly the only way that we will build an inclusive economy in the United States. Part of our work has been supporting the 100,000 Opportunities Initiative, which met its goal this year of hiring 100,000 opportunity youth into jobs. And the coalition is so excited about reaching that goal so quickly that we've set the goal of 1 million jobs by 2021. And it is really exciting. At the core of this initiative, and it's been signed on to by so many corporations and other actors who are committed to this space, at the core of the initiative is the idea that when we come together and we change our perspectives and we bring new ideas into contact with each other, that magic can happen. And that's, of course, what Insight Dialogues is all about, too, and what we believe. So I invite you to join the conversation through Twitter at #RFInsightDialogues, by writing, if you're in the room today, by writing your questions down. And we'll take questions at 3 different times during this conversation. But it's your conversation with us that we think really determines how this goes forward. And to help us launch that conversation, please join me in welcoming the amazing Jada Pinkett Smith. Thank you, my dear. Great. This is so exciting to have you here. It really is. We're just thrilled to have this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
We also know it's around your birthday.
Yeah, my birthday was yesterday.
So happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a beautiful way to spend my birthday.
Well, thank you for celebrating it with us.
Yes.
Let's start by talking about the unbelievable career you've had. I mean, people look at this career and it sounds like it sort of occurred by magic. We all know that that's not how it happens. But one of the things as I look back on your body of work is how struck I am how frequently you've played women of power and depth. Yeah. And have you been able to choose those roles? Because it's amazing. And maybe what's your most favorite, if you can say?
I mean, I've been really lucky. I mean, in my career, I have been really, as what my son always says, that I'm very choosy. He's like, Ma, you've got to open your horizons a little bit. I'm very specific on what I'm willing to play because how I want to represent women. So I will say that has definitely been an aspect of my career, and I've loved all the roles that I've been able to play. People have asked me, well, what's your favorite? And I don't know if I've actually found the favorite yet, but all of my roles I've absolutely loved. I mean, Lena James on A Different World was probably one of my favorites, and to just have a mentor like Debbie Allen. I walked in that room auditioning for another role, and she looked at me and she said, I want you to come back. I want you to be a series regular. We're going to create a role around you. And that's how I got that role on A Different World. And just meeting people like that in my life that just gave me the opportunity to participate in creating a lot of the roles that I've played.
Well, that's really, I think, what I want to turn to next. What a journey from Baltimore to Hollywood.
Ooh, yes.
And all of the things in between.
Yeah.
We know that doesn't happen by accident. I'm a Philly girl like Will.
Right.
So I know these things sort of come about through hard work, but
and a little bit of luck.
And luck, right.
Yeah.
I think we need to say that to people. There are a lot of people who are super good, who don't have that touch of luck.
Yeah.
But how about making your own luck? And how about those who really brought that luck to you, advocates and mentors? And
absolutely.
Is that important in the journey?
It's really important. And I think being prepared when the opportunity comes as well. I'll tell you a story. I was at North Carolina School for the Arts for a year, and I called my mother. And I said, Ma, you got 2 choices. We can either go to Hollywood and see if I can really do this acting thing, or I'm going to law school. And she said, Hollywood, here we come.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's a tough choice.
That's
for
a tough
parent.
choice. And I'm telling you, it was a very important choice. And it didn't take her long to answer. Because if my mother had told me to go to law school, I would have gone to law school. So even in that moment, to have a mother who could see her child, really see her, in that moment and give me the support. I needed that support at 17 years old to go to LA, to leave, school and to leave the protection and the safety net of college and, having people to support me to a certain extent because, I didn't really have much of that as well, but I did have, the college setting versus being out in the wilderness, the wild, wild west of Los Angeles. And for my mother to go, you can do it.
That's amazing.
You can do it. And within 3 months, I had my first job. But it took me to audition 13 times for my first pilot. 13 times.
People need to hear that.
13 times. They just did not know. You know, the director really liked me, but he was like, she's really rough around the edges. Like, you know, because I was new, you know, I was really from the streets of Baltimore, and I was, you know, I was really rough around the edges, and I've cleaned up well. I've cleaned up well since then. But, and he finally decided, I remember Tisha Campbell Martin and Dwayne Martin at the time were starring in the pilot, and they said, would you please just hire her? And we've been good friends ever since.
What about the barriers, though? It couldn't have been easy all those years, and you've had extraordinary longevity.
Yeah.
There are lots of people who maybe get launched well, but then they fade quickly.
Absolutely.
So maybe talk about both of those things a bit.
You know, I would say that I had a beautiful launch, but, you know, going along the way, you really do have choices that you have to make as far as your creative integrity and your personal integrity. Now, listen, there were a lot of roles I was offered, a lot of roles that other people have decided to do, which is fantastic. But for me personally, because of my own personal experiences, a lot of them I just couldn't take on, especially if the creators were not willing to adjust it in a way that I felt was more representative of what I knew those women to be. I was like, I've lived this. I know what a crackhead looks like, a mom who's on drugs, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's not specifically this thing and how you're writing it. It's not so black and white. There's a lot of gray, you know what I mean? And so for me, it was very difficult to take on roles that I thought really didn't show the whole aspect of a character, especially, you know, characters that come from a community that I've come from. I'm very sensitive about that. And so, you know, there were a lot of times where I really had to just, you know, not take roles and not work with filmmakers that I really wanted to work with because we just weren't in agreement of how a world or even a character was being represented.
Well, I think one of the keys to longevity that we're hearing about is real authenticity.
Yeah.
Making sure that it feels authentic to you. It's called acting.
Exactly.
But it isn't really acting, is it?
Well, you know, it is acting. It is taking an aspect of a reality and creating it for a screen, you know. But I think that's also why it's important that we have so many different kinds of voices that you know, have the opportunity to create story and participate in storytelling in Hollywood, because, you know, you may think you understand a reality by something that you might see on the news or what you've read about, but unless you're actually willing to go outside of your comfort zone and live it, you know, one of the reasons why, I mean, many people think it's kind of crazy, but I had a metal band, you know, and I actually went on the road with my metal music for years. And I got to go into communities and meet people I would have never had the chance to meet. And I learned so much about my country and about people I would never have access to by simply stepping outside of my comfort zone and going into a world that I had been told was not for me. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences I had, and I was able to take my kids with me.
That is so great. Well, you've been such an advocate for diversity and inclusion in Hollywood and really outspoken, sort of led a group of now quite outspoken people. But you've seen all of these issues for so long. What do you think the causes are of the lack of diversity and inclusion in Hollywood?
You know what? I think it's just putting people in places to broaden the scope, you know, of Hollywood. It's like the whole idea of having more diversity in our talent agencies, in our executive offices, in the studios, and showrunners for television, and so that the scope in which how we see reality and how our stories are told and the perspective is just broader than what it is right now. And I think that's really it. It's just really flowing power and opportunity to other groups of people that just do not have that access right now.
Well, Jada, you and Will are not just speaking out about it, you're doing something about it, and we're excited to be one of your partners in your newest initiative, the Careers in Entertainment Initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know people will be so excited to hear about what you're doing.
I'm actually super excited. You know, with the help of your foundation and My Brother's Keeper and the New York City Mayor's Office, we are going to have 400 young adults in Brooklyn to launch off our tour, where they'll be able to sit down with professionals that are coming as panelists. They'll be able to talk to them, ask questions, and then they'll actually be able to interact with certain professionals from our business, whether it's boom operators or storytellers, to show them how we actually construct story on storyboard. And so this all happens Wednesday, you know, becoming that liaison for, you know, our youth from underserved communities. And I'm very excited about it. I really am. It's youth and women are my passion.
Well, we're really excited to be a partner in this. And I hope all of you will follow this work, because I know for Jada and Will, it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
Of what they're going to do to really crack open the entertainment industry once and for all.
Definitely.
Trey, Jaden, Willow, they're all in the industry.
Yes.
And they're viewed as sort of iconic in the next generation. So what else do you tell them are their responsibilities as messengers in the entertainment industry?
To not be afraid to be innovators. And here's the key to being an innovator. It's not easy. Because when you are doing something new, you are asking people to come along and break old ideas. And a lot of times people don't like change. But change is necessary, and you have to move the culture with change. Do not be afraid to do that. Do not be afraid of the criticism that you might get. Do not be afraid of the idea that there are times that you will feel alone, because
that they may lose a role.
They might lose a role, or they might lose a certain fan base, or what have you, but you always have to push towards the new. And in all honesty, I'm really proud of them in being able to take on the burden of that, you know, because they've gotten a lot of backlash, and they've gotten a lot of, they've been misunderstood in a lot of ways. But they've also really helped a lot of young people out there who, you know, have a different viewpoint of the world that they agree with, and how Trey, Jaden, and Willow communicate their viewpoint on how they see the world. And at the end of the day, this is their world to create. They have a right to do that. And so it's just a beautiful thing, you know?
It's a beautiful thing.
So, you know, I just tell them, keep pushing. Keep pushing, because we did it. We did it.
Right, we did it.
You know, when
That's
Will
exactly
came,
right.
when Will came into the scene, you know, people told him he could never be the movie star that he is today. You know, many people told Halle Berry and myself and, you know, Nia Long and the Kerry Washingtons that we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we've accomplished. But you got to keep going. You got to keep breaking the barriers. That's what it's about.
But you're breaking the barriers not only in your professional career, but also in advocacy and all of the issues that you've taken on. People say women can't have it all. How do you experience that? Because you're a mother, you have an amazing career, you're an amazing advocate. Do you buy that view?
I feel like you can have the all that you want to have. That's what I believe, okay? And my belief is, don't let anyone tell you what you can or cannot have.
That's it.
And I'll tell you something, I think we as women have to understand that, I think the new movement, hopefully, will be this sense of autonomy and understanding that every woman is her own woman. You cannot identify a powerful woman, a smart woman, a woman as any one thing. Right? We kind of get trapped in these ideas of what a powerful woman is supposed to be, and what does a powerful woman do? Oh, a powerful woman doesn't do that.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And I think that as women, hopefully, we will begin to understand that being a woman and how you identify yourself and your power is it's a personal idea. And that what we as women need to do for each other is to share our stories,
Yep.
you know, and to share what we've learned, but that we have to give each other the room to become that which we believe we should be, even if it's outside of what your idea might be, you know. And I think that, you know, I've been seeing a lot of that lately, of how we as women can really come down on each other. We're trying to do this movement, and you over here doing that. Right. You know what I mean? And, you know, a woman self-actualizing is personal.
Doing it your own way.
Doing it your own way.
Yeah.
It's personal.
Motherhood. So when I interviewed Robin Wright, she said being a mother taught her many, many things, but the two things that stood out for her, sort of looking back on it, were it taught her about the complexity of gender equality and also taught her the art of unlearning. So
Preach, Robin.
Can you talk a little bit about what being a mother has really taught you?
Wow. I think what being a mother has really taught me is how to listen and how to love. The power of love and freedom. Because in me having to listen to my children in who they want to be and the passions that they have. Of course, I've had my own ideas, you know, of what I wanted my kids to be and what I thought how they should get to wherever they're trying to go and what have you. And in listening to them and learning to listen and trust them and releasing my personal ideas and literally just flowing love and support their way to help develop them in the way in which they see themselves. And I found that there is no better way you can love a being than that. And seeing them flourish, and even having to be with them when they fall and make mistakes, and really just going, it's gonna be okay, you know, but understanding that the same higher power that has watched over me is going to watch over them. And in all honesty, there's no better parent than that.
That is true. That
You
is
know.
true.
Yeah.
What a gift. Let me turn to trafficking,
Okay.
which so many of us understand is still horrific around the world. You've cast really such a critical eye on its existence in the United States. And I think many people were initially shocked by the CNN special, and I think people continue to be shocked that it is in epidemic proportions in the United States. You've said working on this has been life-changing for you, and maybe you could talk a little bit about how and what you've learned and what your sense of the young people that you've interviewed and gotten to know really is, so that people have, from your powerful voice, a way of understanding this incredible scourge.
I think the one thing that I recognized in my the education that I received through speaking to a lot of women who have been trafficked is that I realized that any one of us could fall victim to this epidemic. You know, a lot of people want to believe that it's a poor woman's issue, and because of, you know, economic vulnerability. Of course, there are a lot of poor women that are lured into trafficking. But what I've learned is that this is an epidemic that affects every single woman. Educated women. I've talked to women that have been from communities of affluence that have been trafficked. that all women are vulnerable to this epidemic. And one of the things that I also learned that was life-changing for me was that when I listened to how traffickers relate to women that are being trafficked, I have to be honest with you that it's not very different than a lot of what we see going on in our homes. Meaning, a trafficker will tell you, you know, if you do this, we need this. Mm-hmm. I need you to go out and sell your body and do this for us because of how I love you. And if she goes out and she makes a certain amount of money, then he gives her love. And if she doesn't, she's punished. And I looked at how we deal with love in our own houses. We love our children when they do well. Mm-hmm. We punish them when they don't. And I say this in a way that when we go into the world, when our girls and our boys, because a lot of boys are being trafficked now too, we have to be very careful that we're not mirroring the behavior of traffickers, because when our kids go out and they're dealing with these traffickers, it's not that different.
So that's a way to get lured in.
That's the way to get, it's not that different. And sometimes, you know, you feel like, well, at least, you know, I got my nails done, I got some new, it has to be so extreme, such an extreme, like, situation. So whether she's been, you know, broken bones, a broken jaw, put in the hospital, but even then, there's so much shame, mm-hmm. she or he doesn't even feel like they can come back because of what our judgment might be, because of, you know, what they've been told about women or men who get caught up in these kinds of circumstances. So I say all this to say that one of the things that we can do in regards to combating trafficking is deepening how we love. Deepening how we love. Eradicating that fear that sometimes comes in that we might go a little harder on our kids than we should.
You know, I'm a psychologist, and so one of the things that psychology talks about is the difference between conditional and unconditional love. And so often we're giving our kids unintentionally conditional love. You just did a great thing. I'm so proud of you.
Right.
Or you didn't do a great thing. I'm kind of annoyed at you. And there are these moments in parenting when you have to love your children because
right.
for who they are, no matter what
they're doing. Right.
And those are the moments of being real parents,
right.
Those moments of unconditional love. So I do think, you know, as we think about what we do as parents, as aunts and uncles, as great friends of young people, think about those moments of unconditional love.
Right.
And
it's not easy. It's very, listen, parenting, so let me just be clear, and just in saying what I just said, let's be clear about one thing. It ain't easy. We all trying to figure this thing out. You know, because I'm going to tell you, before I started even diving into trafficking, I was on that game. You know what I mean? Just as far as, but, you know, I was like, really, to combat it, we really as a society have to click into a different way in which we relate to our children.
What's the most important thing we can do as individuals to help end trafficking? And this is so critical. Yeah. We all have a role. That's where I started this conversation. What do you want us to do as individuals?
I think we just have to really get educated, you know, about what trafficking really is and what it's about, and being able to see, you know, it's so funny. I mean, when I'm on the street, I'm looking, especially at night, you know, why is that young girl on a bus stop at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and she's not in school? Yeah. What's happening? And why is that gentleman on the corner? And okay, you know what I mean? Or if I'm at a hotel, you know, and I see a gentleman with 3 girls, I mean, it could be a father with daughters, who knows? But, it's kind of just getting the information and just understanding what it looks like. And it can look like a lot of things, but we really have to educate ourselves and really be in communication with our kids. Because I'm telling you, this online and the stories that I've heard of young girls online and how they get lured, just innocently wanting to socialize. These are not bad girls. They're just socializing. And they'll go meet a guy that they think is their age that's cute at the mall for pizza with her girlfriend. He ends up being a 35-year-old dude, and the next thing they're snatched and they're gone. And their mother is in the parking lot. So, in understanding also that the children that get involved in this are not bad kids. I'm sorry.
They're unsuspecting victims. This is about victimization.
Yeah.
It really is. And we can be on the lookout. There are warning signs. Jada just talked about a couple of them. One of the questions, Jada, that really relates to this but puts a different part of the face on it, is saying there's a prevailing idea that girls are okay, but, and I don't know the statistic. Our questioner, Nona, says that 80% of the girls in the juvenile justice system have been victims of sexual violence.
Yes.
So is sexual violence a gateway?
Sexual violence is absolutely a gateway.
Make them wind up in juvie?
Absolutely. Sexual violence is definitely a gateway, and, our kids that are in foster care system, that's a huge gateway. At some point, we're really going to have to figure out our foster care system because, a lot of our young girls and boys are extremely vulnerable. So having an adult that comes your way and is offering you, a different way of life or, some aspect of love that you think is love, and these young people get lured in like immediately. It doesn't take much because in their minds, they don't have anyone to care for them. Yeah. And so these traffickers pretend as if they're caretakers, and that's how our young people get involved. And the thing that we're going to really have to start talking about that's even more taboo is how our boys are being victimized. And we don't even have systems in place. There aren't even enough beds for our girls, but there are no beds for our boys that are being victimized and trafficked. And it's becoming a huge issue.
You talk about getting trapped through social media, people who are just surfing and get caught. Are there ways that we could turn social media into an agent for good in this by raising awareness or other kinds of things? Because our kids are online all the time.
I think the best way to combat that is to be in communication with your children. Don't make them afraid to talk to you. And, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who were you meeting? That we have a more open communication with our children and understanding what it means to just simply grow up and the kind of stuff that we did stuff. You know what I mean? And when our kids get in the game, we try to act like it's new. Yeah. You know what I mean? We did stuff, So it's just really getting in communication with our kids. Look, I've been there. I just want to have this communication with you because I want to help keep you safe. I'm not trying to be nosy. That's what I always have to tell Willow. Girl, I'm not trying to be nosy. Do you see this crazy world out here? I'm responsible for you until you are 18 years old. Help me keep you safe. That's all I ask. Can we just be team players on that level? Do you want to end up like, you know what I mean? And so when I speak to her in that way, she's like, okay, you're right. All right. I'm not going to tell you everything, but I am going to tell you this. This is where I'm going to be at this time. It's like, cool.
Right.
You know, so I really just think that we just have to have a level of communication with our children and have these kinds of, and they're difficult conversations to have, but we have to have them.
And what would you say, and you've met so many of these people, what do you say to a young girl or boy who's been victimized?
It does not define you.
Not who you are.
It is not who you are.
Do we have enough supports to help people come back?
No. But what I will say is that with the more awareness, there are programs that are popping up every day, thank goodness, you know, because it's still something new for us, you know. But every day, you know, I have a Google alert that gives me all the human trafficking information all day long. and so,
Depressing.
yeah, I know. I know.
I'm sorry.
But I'm so passionate about it because it tells you the good news, and it tells you the bad news, and it tells you about all the different laws that are happening in different states, you know, and different programs, you know, all over the country that are occurring. And so because of those Google alerts, I will tell you that, you know, our citizens are on it, and legislation around the country, statewide, people are recognizing that we need laws and we need help, homes, and programs for our young people who get caught up in this. So it's happening. It's just going to take. It just takes a while.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back a little to the industry because several of the questions really have to do with that, and of course the marvelous initiative for increasing careers in entertainment for young people, particularly people of disadvantage and women. One of our questioners said, a different world showed historically black colleges and universities in such a positive light. Would you consider revamping the series to now show more positive images of people of color? And you have the power now to be able to determine what's in the script,
Right.
not just who's on the screen.
Right.
Talk
Debbie
about that a
Allen.
little.
Debbie Allen has been. She has definitely. I think she had a script that she was putting together, and trying to revamp A Different World. And I think it's a project that she's still working on as we speak. Yeah. So if it's something that Debbie gets up going and she wants me to come along and help her out with it, by all means, I can never tell Debbie no.
We love that.
I could never tell Debbie no. Could never tell her no.
All right, I'm going to ask Jada a kind of lightning round of questions.
Okay.
So real short answers, but things people want to know. Who's your favorite actor or actress of all time?
Oh man, I don't know if I have one of all time yet, but I tell you who I really love. That's that Robin Wright that you had here. I love Robin. I've loved her for a long time. She's supremely talented, and I'm really happy for her.
Good. She is great.
Yeah.
She's terrific. And also somebody who really is taking hold of causes and using her star power to advance important issues.
Absolutely.
What's one movie that every person ought to see in his or her lifetime, if you could only choose one?
You know, you're probably going to think this is super silly, but The Incredibles. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I think there is a superhero in all of us. I really do. And I tell you, that movie just touches a special place in me every single time. And I feel like if every single person could recognize their superhero, man, this would be a different world, man. No
Well,
pun intended.
This actually does lead to the next question. So if you could now speak to Jada at 14, what would you tell her? What do you want a 14-year-old to know, knowing what you know now?
I would tell her, be grateful for everything. Every blessing, every trauma, every pain, every joy. Be grateful. That's exactly what I would tell her.
Fantastic advice. If you weren't an entertainer, of course you've been in so many professions, but if you weren't in any of the professions you've been in, what might you pursue?
I would be a lawyer, no doubt. No doubt. I would take the drama to the courthouse.
Okay. What's your favorite pastime with your kids?
Oh, I love just talking to them. Literally, just sitting around and talking to them, hearing what their thoughts are, and us just getting into some of the craziest conversations that we get involved. Yeah, I just love talking to them. They are some of my favorite people on the planet. I love them.
Lucky them.
Because you can love your kids, but you don't always like them.
That's true.
I really like my kids.
What person, dead or alive, would you most like to have dinner with? If it could just be you and that person.
Man, what person, dead or alive? If I could have dinner with once again, probably my friend Tupac. I would love to have dinner with him one more time. Yeah.
What's the funniest thing Will ever said to you?
What? Let me tell you something about that Willard. I mean, he's hilarious all day long. I mean, this is the guy who hides behind doors and jumps out and tries to scare me still. So Will is saying and doing funny things 24/7. I wouldn't even know where to begin to say what was the funniest thing.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge another of your partners, our partners in the initiative that we talked about, and that is Cabinet Secretary Broderick Johnson of my brother's keeper.
Yes! Hey. Yes, indeed, a homeboy.
He's here on behalf of President Obama, for whom this is such an incredible passion, and we know that the Obama Foundation will take this up as one of its earliest things. But thank you, Broderick, for all your work and effort. Another Philly connection, right? We have that from our past as well, and it's great to see you here.
Super excited for the partnership. Thank you so much.
So how do you plan to open up your initiative to more young people in low-income communities across the country? We know the first one will be Wednesday in Brooklyn.
Yes.
But what are your plans beyond that?
We're going to go around the country. We're planning on hitting Chicago, Atlanta, and a few other cities in the country. I think we're going to try to reach 3,000 children this year alone. And as you know, that our focus is to really reach for children who are young adults from underserved communities. Yeah.
Well, I'm getting the high sign here, so let me say that when you leave here this afternoon, we hope you will continue being in this conversation with us, not only being inspired by the extraordinary example that Jada sets, but taking her words of wisdom for the kinds of actions that so many of us can take, and adding your own insights into what more we can do. Share your reactions and your questions using hashtag RFDialogues. We invite you to contribute your ideas if you'd like to broaden your statement beyond a question. There are blog posts on the Huffington Post Contributors Network, so join in that way. Visit our website, the Rockefeller Foundation website, where we'll be updating information around this initiative and other initiatives that really link to the critical issues that we've been talking about today. And you'll find, those of you who are with us in the studio, information about how to continue this as we go forward. So it's on your seats, please. Please take the wonderful Just water and think about just cause. You know, we can do this, but just also stands for justice. And we've been talking a lot today about justice in what we do and all of our role in really making sure that we live in a more just and inclusive society. So join me in thanking this marvelous person.
Oh, thank you.
Jada Pinkett Smith.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Please, I'll follow you.
Okay.